Welcome back to Random History. I'm the navigator as we explore the little known events and people that make history such an amazing subject. These are not the events you learned about in school. In fact, when you do hear about them, you're likely to think that they could not possibly be real. But they are. In today's episode, we're diving into one of those stories. And to be honest, it does sound like it's straight out of a Pixar movie. But, as I said, it is real. Picture this: World War II, chaos everywhere. Soldiers fighting for their lives. In the middle of it all, a bear. Not just any bear, but a bear with military rank, a paycheck, and a taste for beer and cigarettes. This is the story of Wojtek, the Syrian brown bear who became a soldier in the Polish army. Hang on to your hats, because this one's kind of wild. All right. Let's roll back the clock to 1942 and meet our fuzzy hero. Like I said, it's 1942 and the world is a mess. World War II is raging, and Poland, well, Poland's been through it. Invaded by the Nazis and the Soviet Union in 1939, the country is split. Tons of Polish soldiers and civilians are either prisoners or scattered across the map. But here's where it gets interesting. After the Nazis turned on the Soviets in 1941, Stalin's like, okay, fine, I'll let some of these Polish prisoners go. Enter General Władysław Anders. He's been tasked with forming what's called Anders' Army, basically a ragtag crew of freed Polish POWs ready to fight the Axis powers. This army is marching out of the Soviet Union through Iran, heading towards the British lines in the Middle East. They've got civilians with them too. Families, kids, people who've been deported to Siberian gulags and are just trying to survive. On 8 April 1942, they're in Hamadan, Iran, when something bizarre happens. A group of soldiers from the 22nd Artillery Supply Company runs into a local kid, a shepherd, carrying a burlap sack. Inside, a tiny Syrian brown bear cub. Its mom's been killed by hunters, and this kid is looking to trade. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm a soldier in the middle of a war, I'm not exactly thinking, you know what I need? A bear. But these guys, well, they're different. A young civilian refugee named Irina Bokowicz, 18 by the way, and the niece of a Polish general, sees the cub and falls in love. She convinces a lieutenant named Anatol Tarnowski to buy it. According to Eileen Orr, in her book, Wojtek the Bear, Polish Army War Hero, they trade some canned beef, a Swiss Army knife, and chocolate for this little bundle of fur. They name him Wojtek, which is short for Wojciech, which is a Polish name that means joyful warrior. Kind of fitting, isn't it? For the next 3 months, Irina takes care of Wojtek in a refugee camp near Tehran. She feeds him condensed milk out of an old vodka bottle, because apparently that's what you do with a bear cub. But he grew fast, and the camp was no place for a wild animal. So in August, she handed him over to the 22nd Artillery Supply Company. These soldiers, they adopt him like he's one of their own. And that's where the story really takes off. So Wojtek is now part of the 22nd. He's not just a mascot. These guys treat him like a brother. They feed him fruit, honey, marmalade, whatever they've got. And here's where it gets fun. Wojtek developed a taste for beer. Like, he'll drink from the bottle, peek inside to see if there's more. He also loves cigarettes. Not smoking them, mind you, but eating them. If they're lit, even better. Karen Bullard in the Washington Post quoted a soldier saying Wojtek would accept lit cigarettes, take a puff, and swallow them. I mean, who needs a campfire when you've got a bear doing party tricks? The soldiers taught him other stuff too. He learned to salute, wave, even march on his hind legs. He'd wrestle with them, gently because he was a good boy, and on cold nights he'd sneak into their tents to snuggle. William Hosey over at The Collector says Wojtek thought he was one of them. And honestly, after everything these soldiers had been through, losing their homes, their families, this bear became a symbol of hope, a little piece of joy in a world gone dark. But here's the kicker. In 1944, the Polish II Corps, that's the bigger unit that the 22nd was part of, got orders to join the British 8th Army in Italy. They're shipping out from Egypt, and there's a problem. The British transport ship had strict no pets policy. These guys aren't about to leave Wojtek behind, so what do? They enlist him. Officially. Private Wojtek gets a rank, a serial number, even a paybook. Instead of cash, he gets double rations, which is fair because by now he's over 200 pounds and still growing. The British check his credentials and shrug. Well, he's a soldier. On you go. I can almost picture the manifest. Name, Wojtek. Species, bear. Occupation, morale booster, and occasional ammo hauler. Because yeah, that's coming up next. So Wojtek and his unit land in Italy with a Polish 2 Corps, and they're headed for the Battle of Monte Cassino, one of the bloodiest fights in the Italian campaign. It's May of 1944, and the Allies are trying to break through German lines to open up the road to Rome. The Poles are tasked with supplying artillery, and Wojtek, he's not just along for the ride. The story goes, and there's a little bit of debate here, that Wojtek starts carrying the ammo. These are 100-pound crates of 25-pound artillery shells, stuff that usually takes 4 guys to move. Witnesses say he'd stand on his hind legs, grab a crate, and haul it to the trucks, or the guns, never dropping a single crate. A British soldier later recalled being shocked to see a 6-foot bear lugging ammo through the chaos. Now, some folks, like the son of one of Wojtek's caretakers, say they might have been empty crates or used shells, usually not live rounds. Either way, the guy's a legend. The 22nd loves him so much, they make him their emblem, a bear carrying a shell. After Monte Cassino, Wojtek got a promotion. Private Wojtek became Corporal Wojtek. He now outranked some of his handlers, which I bet he rubbed their faces in it over a beer or two. He kept boosting morale, chasing oranges like grenades during training, scaring new recruits by holding them upside down, even jumping into the Adriatic Sea once, freaking out some of the swimmers. He was living his best life in the middle of a war. When the war ended in 1945, things got complicated. Poland was under Soviet control, and a lot of the soldiers can't or won't go home. The 22nd ends up in Scotland, at a camp in Berwickshire. Wojtek's with them, charming the locals, eating honey and jam, even helping carry fence posts on a farm. But in 1947, the unit was demobilized, and they had to figure out what they were going to do with their bear. They decide that he can't go wild, he's been raised by humans since he was a cub. So they send him to the Edinburgh Zoo. It was bittersweet. The soldiers hated saying goodbye, but it was the safest spot for him. Wojtek settled in, became a star attraction. His old army buddies would visit, tossing him cigarettes to munch on, sometimes sneaking in to wrestle. He lived there until December of 1963, when he passed away at the age of 21. Huge for a bear, by the way, nearly 500 pounds and over 6 feet tall. His legacy lives on, though. There are statues of him in both Poland and Scotland, like the one in Edinburgh's Prince's Street's Garden, unveiled in 2015. The Imperial War Museum's got a plaque, and he's even got a beer named after him in England. Eileen Orr calls him a Polish war hero, and he really was. For these soldiers, he wasn't just a bear. He was a symbol of resilience, friendship, and maybe a little bit of a joyful warrior spirit that his name promised. So why am I telling this story today? Because it shows that in the middle of all the grim stuff that World War II threw at us, Wojtek is a reminder that even in the darkest time, people and bears can find a way to laugh, bond, and keep going. He wasn't just a mascot. He was a soldier, a pal, a piece of history that's too good to forget. I cannot imagine being in combat, overrunning the enemy, and encountering a bear. Talk about striking fear in the hearts of your enemy. For today's True Hero segment, I want to introduce you to a bear of a man, a Marine who famously said to his troops, "Come on, you SOBs, do you want to live forever?" as he charged headlong into the enemy. He was a larger-than-life hero whose leadership inspired men in 3 different conflicts. He was the fightin'est Marine ever. And so for today's True Hero segment, we're diving into the story of one of the toughest, most fearless men to ever wear a Marine uniform, Sergeant Major Daniel Daly. This guy didn't just earn one Medal of Honor, he was awarded two of them, and he came real close to a third. Although this guy sounds like a giant, he wasn't. We're talking a 5'6", 132-pound, kicking butt, taking names jarhead who looked danger in the face and said, "Is that all you got? So grab a coffee or something stronger if you're allowed, and let's get into it." Daniel Daly was born in 1873 in Glen Cove, New York. Little, scrappy, loved boxing as a kid. He joined the Marines in 1899, right at the end of the Spanish-American War. But his real test came a year later in 1900 during the Boxer Rebellion in China. Picture this. Peking, that's Beijing today, was a mess. Foreigners were under siege by these Boxer rebels, and Daly was part of the U.S. Embassy Guard. One night, the German Marines got pushed back from a key spot on the Tartar Wall, a big defensive wall around the city. Daly stepped up and "I got this." He took position in the bastion all by himself. Now imagine, being alone, pitch dark, snipers popping shots at you, and waves of Boxers trying to overrun your position. Most people would have cracked, but not Daly. He held that wall all night, picking off attackers left and right. By morning, when reinforcements showed up, they found him still standing, surrounded by a pile of dead enemy bodies. Some say over 200, though historians argue that that might be a stretch. Either way, it was a bloodbath, and Daly was the last man standing. That gutsy stand earned him his first Medal of Honor. The citation was pretty dry. It just said, "Distinguished himself by meritorious conduct." But the real story? That is pure legend. Now let's fast forward 15 years. It's 1915. Daly's a gunnery sergeant by now, and he's in Haiti during what's called the Banana Wars. The U.S. was backing the Haitian government against these rebels called the Caicos. On 24 October, Daly was with a small recon unit, about 38 Marines, crossing a river at night. Out of nowhere, 400 Caicos ambushed them from three sides. Bullets are flying, chaos everywhere. The mule, carrying their only machine gun, took a hit and went down in the river. They're pinned, outnumbered 10-1, and things truly looked grim. But Daly didn't flinch. He got his guys to a decent defensive spot, but he knows they're toast without a machine gun. So what did he do? Sneaks back to the river alone, under fire, dives in, finds the gun, straps it to his back, hauls it back to his men. I mean, come on. That's the stuff that movies are made of, right? The next morning, he led one prong of a 3-squad attack, caught the Caicos off guard, and they scatter. 75 dead, the rest running for the hills. One officer said if any squad had failed, they'd all be dead. Daly's leadership and sheer guts turned the tide. Boom. Second Medal of Honor in the bag. The citation for this one says, "His exceptional gallantry against heavy odds." No kidding. Now we fast forward a couple more years. It's 1918, World War I, the Battle of Belle Wood in France. Daly's 44 years old. That's ancient for a frontline grunt. But he's still out there with his 6 Marines. The Germans are dug in, machine guns blazing, and the Marines are stuck under a brutal artillery barrage. On 6 June, Daly's company was pinned down, but he wasn't having any of it. He grabbed his guys and yelled, "Get this. Come on, you SOBs. Do you want to live forever?" And that's the line that's etched in Marine Corps lore. He then led a charge across no man's land straight into the teeth of the enemy. Oh, but wait, there's more. A few days later, 10 June, he goes full-on Rambo. He took out a machine gun nest by himself with just his pistol and some hand grenades. He also ran around under fire, dragging wounded Marines to safety. Earlier that same week, he'd even put out a fire in an ammo dump. The guy was a one-man wrecking crew. His commanders put him up for a 3rd Medal of Honor, and the New York Times even reported that it was a done deal. But here's the kicker. The Marine brass say, nah, two's enough for one guy. Bureaucratic nonsense, or more likely jealousy, if you ask me. Instead, they gave him the Navy Cross and the Distinguished Service Cross. Still amazing, but you can't help but feel that the guy was robbed. So what's the takeaway here? Daly wasn't some superhero. Like all the men and women that I like to highlight in these stories, he was a regular guy who just refused to quit. Smedley Butler, another two-time Medal of Honor winning Marine, called him the fightin'est Marine I ever knew. John Lejeune, a Marine Corps commandant, said he was the most outstanding Marine of all time. And yet Daly didn't care about the hype. He shunned publicity, once saying that medals were a lot of foolishness. He just wanted to fight for his country and his brothers in arms. Daly retired from the Marine Corps in 1929 after 30 years of service, and he worked as a bank guard until he passed in 1937. His legacy? 2 Medals of Honor, a near miss on a third, and a battle cry that still fires up Marines today. So next time you think you're up against impossible odds, channel a little Daniel Daly. Grab your grenades, stare down the chaos, and charge. We'll be back next week with more tales of grit and glory. Semper Fi. Unfortunately, this brings us to the end of another episode of Random History. I hope you enjoyed it and will come back and listen to future episodes. If you'd like to view the transcript or sources for the episode, click the link in the description. You can also suggest future topics by clicking that same link or shooting us an email. As always, I want to thank Argos Media for producing Random History and to thank my wife for her continued support and inspiration. Until next time, make some history of your own. Navigator out.